I almost just called it a stiffy, and I think that's the worst thing.
To release the Hound.
Woof. Happy New Comic Book Day, geeks, and welcome to issue 16 of the Script Heroes podcast.
The show where we bring you comic news, book reviews, and industry blues. My name is Joseph Jasnowski, and I'm the writer of Janitor Hero, Cunning Carly, and the Cryptoverse.
And I'm Katie Markham, scripter of the Rusty Robot Country Club and ghostwriter extraordinaire. Today we're talking about Green Arrow number 9 and the OGN Hound from Mad Cave Studios.
Yep, an extra small-sized pull list for this week, but to complement that, we have an awesome back issue review this week where we talk about Batman Superman World's Finest Volume 1 by Mark Waid and Dan Mora.
And in our Creator Corner, we're going to be joined by David Andry to talk about Resident, Denizen, and the upcoming Morning Star.
And if I don't say so myself, I do believe this is one of the best interviews we've had so far. There's a lot of good stuff in there. If you watch anything from this episode, I would jump to our interview with David Andry. And if you enjoy that interview or anything else in this episode, you can follow the pod on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at the handle Script Heroes Pod. Or you can find my socials at JJAZ1111.
And I'm on all socials at Katie Markham Pro.
And now, onto the news. So to start off the news for this week, we have a press release coming from Limit Break Comics regarding their Wish Upon a Star anthology. The Irish comic book collective and publisher Limit Break Comics today launched the Kickstarter campaign for its fourth myth anthology, Wish Upon a Star. The campaign seeks to raise 16,500 euros in the month of March to publish a comic anthology of far future adaptations of fairy tales. So please check it out. I have already backed the campaign.
And I will be after this episode. Very cool.
Okay, so for the first full story this week, we have an announcement coming from friend of the podcast, Nicholas Mueller, regarding Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter. This came in a full announcement
this morning, so I have not seen it. I'm very excited.
Literally dropped, I think, now an hour ago. He did a full kind of announcement video which touched upon stuff that we've covered before. Winnie the Pooh coming out as a miniseries this summer. Raven Demon Hunter coming out in Exciting Comics 44. I'm going to link the full video in the description, so please check out his announcement video. But the big announcement is that there will be a Kickstarter campaign this summer for Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter animated short made by Nick. And it is going to be loosely adapting the first Winnie the Pooh story. Not Winnie the Pooh Demon Hunter, the first Winnie the Pooh story. Of basically Winnie going out to try to seek honey. Yeah. But it will be with this Demon Hunter flair. Again, I push you to watch Nick's video. He does it much more animated and much more exciting than me telling you. But this is so freaking cool.
No, that is super rad. When we had our interview with him, he had teased that something big and very exciting was coming. And oh my gosh, this is definitely big and very exciting. Like, so much work goes into creating animation, and just
and he's
talking to Nick, he's doing it himself.
He's doing it, yeah.
Dude, he is such a nose to the grindstone kind of guy. He is so dedicated to putting out just really top tier stuff. This
100%.
is frankly a great project for him to be on, and I'm pretty sure both of us will be backing with bated breath.
As I will also be pulling both of the books in stores this week. I think Nick called it the summer of demon hunting, with a new project every month. Raven coming out in stores, Winnie coming out in stores, this animated short, and then a project that he has yet to announce to kind of cap off the summer. So
always leaves us wanting more of that Nick Mueller.
Yeah, so stay tuned and absolutely check out the full video. If I have not said that enough times, it will be in the description. But let's move on to our next story for the week.
Let's do it.
So for our next little bit of news for the week, we're going to be talking about Rob Liefeld once before. We last talked about him retiring from Deadpool, and maybe we can shed a little bit of light on what the plan was regarding that, as we have now learned that he will be relaunching several of his creator-owned characters. But interestingly, not Youngblood. He is relaunching through a book called Last Blood, which he is self-publishing. Mm-hmm. He has relaunched Prophet, Bloodstrike, Bloodstone, the Berserkers, and a newer hero called Bo, which was created in 2020, so not as, old as the rest of them. but Last Blood #1 has already released. This man
Oh,
released these in a Whatnot auction, where I think they said he sold 80 copies. So it's seeming like the main way to get this series, which is going to be a 4-part series, is going to be through Whatnot.
mhm,
Assuming he's going to be selling more than just 80 copies of issue 1, but that was just the first, like,
the batch.
auction of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Rob Liefeld is back in creator owned after retiring from Deadpool. Katie.
I mean, good for him. First of all, I think that uh, going self-published is a good move for with literally nothing but actual respect. Like for someone like him who has seemingly burnt bridges in various places. It seems that a lot of those bridges have been like tenuously rebuilt. But especially as someone who I think a lot of people in the comic community have lost faith and favor in, going self published where it's really going to be the people who want to see your stuff who are getting your stuff. I think that's a really good move for Liefeld to do. I'm interested to know, though, what it means by self publishing because I feel like I've seen a number of books with like the little Whatnot logo on them.
No, I don't think it's Whatnot. It's not Whatnot. Like Massive is now what Whatnot
Right,
is
right.
calling themselves. I don't think it's a Massive published book. I think he's just selling them through Whatnot,
Okay,
through
gotcha.
self published. And a little addendum, as I have kind of refamiliarized myself with the article. The first print run was 80 copies. There will be more, but they are different covers. So
That
it's
makes
seeming
sense.
like each cover is very limited. There's going to be 2 other variants that are each getting a 70 copy print run of issue 1,
Mhm.
and then that's all that's been announced so far. It's a 4-issue series, but it seems like these are going to be limited. I don't know what he's selling them for. If they're auctioned, it might just be as much as they go for. So, however you feel about it, if you're a Liefeld fan or not. And then the other thing that kind of addendums on this is a couple of these characters, um, Bloodwolf and Bloodstrike leader Cabot, are being made into action figures with Loose Collector with the lineup coming out in 2025. So it
That's
seems like
neat.
this is he got an action figure deal, and then this series is kind of meant to bring the characters back a little bit before
Mhm.
the figures come out. So good for life. Although always whatever you feel like if they're doing their own stuff, if you like them, you can do it. If you don't like them, you can't. Nothing better than people doing their own stuff. So heavy
Exactly.
respect there.
Absolutely. And I do think it's fun. Like I'm not a big collectible person. So like limited runs of covers are never like very enticing to me. But I do think it's fun for Liefeld when like so much of his creator and start was like, oh, everyone's gonna get this because they think they're gonna be collectible. And I like that there is actually gonna be like a scarcity and collectability to these books for him.
What I'll say, what I like the most is seeing action figures get made for comic book characters that are just comic book characters.
That's
Like
super
that
fair.
is really cool. I don't think that's a thing that's really been done since the 90s. Like nowadays, you got to get that TV show, that video
Hmm.
game, that movie to get figures and stuff. But I feel like figures just work so well with comics because
They
people buy
really
the figure
do.
just because it looks cool, and then maybe they'll buy the comic, or if they like the comic, they'll buy the figure. I obviously this is a very limited. It looks like there's only going to be 2 figures to start the run, but this is something I like to see. I
Yeah.
would like to see more comic books. Let's get, actually, I think McFarlane might have done, let me addendum that. McFarlane has definitely done some comic book only action
Oh yeah.
figures for Spawn, for other Image books, but more of that stuff would be super nice.
Well, Jay, you're forgetting the most ubiquitous figure creator that does a lot of like only comic stuff. Clearly, you should fill your shelves with Funko Pops. They have every comic character you could ever think of.
You're not wrong, but also, let's end this segment. No, I don't. I get the appeal because you can get every property in the same like look and feel, and like for a collector, like that's nice. I own one single Funko Pop of Jon Stewart because I own like every single Jon Stewart thing that exists in this world, but I don't like them, and that is where
Yeah.
I will end it. And I would like more articulated figures of just comic book only stuff, like what these. And look, the figure that I'm seeing a picture of actually looks really cool. Like it just in terms of like an action figure, not in terms of design or whatever.
Mhm.
Just I think it looks like a well made. well articulated action figure. If you're not aware, I was a very heavy action figure collector for a while, so I do have my little action figure-y brain. So yeah.
And see, I'm much more of like a statue person. Like I've got Nightwing over
Hey,
here, and he's
I got tons of
articulated, and he
statues,
bothers
too.
me so much.
Listen,
but then I have my little
guys.
statue, and I love
I
him
don't know
more
if
than
anybody,
life.
if anybody listening is familiar with the Last Ronin sideshow statue. I spent my entire stimulus check on that statue, and it is like my prized possession.
That man stimulated the economy, that's for sure.
Listen. I figured, I wasn't working very much at the time. I was like, this is free money, like I don't need to be responsible with this. Now, several years later, when my first thought is, man, I wish I spent that on making comic books, but this is where we are.
You have a
and I have
sick
an
figure.
awesome statue. I do. It's a statue, but yeah.
You have a sick statue.
Yeah,
my Batman Hush one is my favorite, but he's not in frame.
Mm-hmm. My
His
statues
cape is
are
so
all at
fucking
home,
cool.
as are my figures. I don't have any. I don't have anything like that here, unfortunately. But anyway, we've started very much.
We got a little
rambling
sidetrack
here.
there.
So, if you're a Rob Liefeld fan, check out his Whatnot if you're interested in finding Last Blood.
Yeah.
But in any case, let's move on to the shortened poll list for the week.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to another edition of the Poll List Rec. We have a interesting poll list rec for you guys this week, as we'll be talking about Green Arrow number 9, and then we will be talking about the trade paperback that came out this week of Hound from Mad Cave.
OGN from Mad Cave.
Yeah, very cool. But of course, that's not all the books we picked up this week. Katie, what else did you get?
All right, let's see here. All right, we've got Beneath the Trees, Where Nobody Sees, number 3s. Jill and the Killers, number 2. Hack Slash, Back to School, number 3, I want to say 3. Crashdown, number 2. And then Canary, number 3, which is technically numbers 5 and 6, I believe, because they released all those as little duos.
Yeah. First time in a while you've beaten me on...
What can I say?
I didn't grab my other physicals. So
my guy only had Crashdown for me. The rest of them, I guess, I just don't have on my pull list because they were coming out kind of sporadically or are a little newer. And he's like, "Oh, I only got one for you today." I'm like, "Don't you worry. I'm gonna go walk around and then fill things out."
I had 2, mainly because my guy forgot to pull one of mine, so I should have had 3, and then there was one that I'm just still not pulling yet. So I got Conan 8, which is the book that he forgot to pull for me, so I had to grab off the wall. Duke 3, which Duke is still technically not on my pull list yet, so I don't know, maybe I'll fix that at some point. Edenwood number 5, and then Green Arrow, obviously. But
I've been meaning to grab Edenwood. I got the first issue, and then just I haven't read it yet, and so I haven't grabbed any of the others.
I haven't read any of it yet either. But
Tony Daniel.
Usually I read before I get to issue 5. Like usually my thing is like once I have like 3 or 4 issues, I'm like I need to read one and make a decision about whether or not I'm going to keep pulling this. But Edenwood's just been one of those that slipped through the cracks.
I mean, it's Tony Daniel. Case, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're going to start with Green Arrow, and then we'll talk about Hound, and that's all I got for the full list rec this week. So
beautiful.
Let's talk about Green Arrow.
Twing! Green Arrow number 9. Beast World Fallout. After months of searching, the Emerald Archer has found Amanda Waller at her new hideout, the Hall of Order. Oliver Queen has his sights set on taking her out and demands answers for why she messed with his family. But what does Ollie do when Amanda Waller offers him the deal of a lifetime? As we know, we've been reading this here. Joshua Williamson is the writer. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earth, a ton of The Flash, some Superman. I think he's kind of had his hands all over the place lately. The artist is Sean Izeki, who's done stuff for Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and definitely one other thing. Avengers, that's the one. Thank you. The colorist is Romulo Fajardo Jr., and the letterer is Troy Pateri. Jay, we're getting plot in Green Arrow. What's the vibe?
Yeah. I'm enjoying this run. I get this like immediate negative reaction every time I see Peacemaker and Peace Wrecker,
Same.
So, trying to couch that.
And it seems that Ollie does too.
Yeah, trying to couch that. I did like kind of the building of the stakes throughout this issue. I thought that there was like a real like earned building of stakes throughout this issue is how I'll phrase it. And then Diggle popping up, pretty cool. But for one page, I wanted a little bit more with Connor and Diggle, just a tad more. Like, I like that it was a tease in this issue, but like that one page just feels too little. But overall, I liked it. I thought it was a good, solid issue. Like I said, I thought the stakes were kind of well built. It's still not a ton happened in this issue, but it did make me excited for the next issue, which is a pretty good stepping stone issue, in my opinion.
That's fair. I had a bit more of a problem with nothing really happening in the issue. Because when we read the first set of it, a lot happened. And then we were like, oh, well, here's a little filler issue, and we like this filler issue a lot. And then I think it was like, okay, here's another kind of filler issue. We like this filler issue a lot. And now things are getting set into motion. But like, I've just had 2 issues of filler. I don't really need a setup issue, you know? Like, there wasn't a lot of action that happened. All of the, like, fighting that went down was done within, like, 2 or 3 pages or something. And it wasn't particularly exciting fighting either. And like you said, Peacemaker, just annoying. I am, unfortunately, with the knowledge that Absolute Power is coming out over the summer, I'm like a little wallered out between this and like playing the Suicide Squad game. Like, there's just a lot of Waller going around. Yeah, and I know that she's laying foundations, but I could just use
villain, which is not my thing.
Yeah, and I'm with you. If there was more focus on Connor's thing that was going on, or if we like went over to Black Canary or Leanne and we saw what they were up to, I think I'd be more into it. As it happened, it was a little bit of a nothing issue for me.
That's fair. I liked what they were setting in motion. I think we could have done a little bit more for sure, but I do get needing to set up there. I think there is an unfortunate pacing with when you do 2 filler issues. Like, you need to do a setup issue to get into the plot, but coming after 2 filler issues, it is absolutely a justifiable feeling to have. So I fully track with you there. Overall, I enjoyed it, though.
I still liked it. I think Ollie's well written in Joshua Williamson's hands.
I honestly, like, in terms of the ongoing DC books that I am picking up and reading, actually the Green Lantern books are pretty good, but it's toward the higher end of consistency, I feel like, currently. So,
that's fair.
You know.
And yeah, I didn't dislike it. Do you want to hop into ratings?
Absolutely. I'm going to start by saying I think you can jump in here, and I think this is actually a good issue to jump in on. Like, if you are looking in the time, I think this is the time to jump on because things are getting emotion. I think you will actually enjoy this a lot more if it's the first issue you read, because I think you'll kind of get in there a bit. So pull list rec from me is what I'm getting at. And like I said, I thought it was a good solid issue. I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. That's where I've landed.
Yeah, we're not terribly far off. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10, just because I could have used a little more action along with the setup. But I'm with you. I think that we've seen that Joshua Williamson has some cool ideas for Green Arrow, and I am very excited to see where this is going. So I will also call it a pull list rec. That's going to be our
unofficial
pull list rec, and the only like floppy pull list rec possible this week.
1 for 1 on floppies for the first time ever, 100%. Right, so.
But it is time to go into I almost just called it a stiffy, and I think that's the worst thing.
To release the Hound.
Let's do it. Hound. During World War I, a young soldier, William Barrow, is assigned to one of the most deadly areas along the Western Front. However, he finds the greatest threat to his life lies not with the enemy, but with the horrific and dangerous cult formed by his own men. Now he must try to survive both the ongoing war and animalistic nature of his fellow soldiers. So, this is coming to us from the writer duo of Sam Romsberg and Sam Freeman. Sam Romsberg has worked on The Dillinger Escape, Children of the Grave, and Rock and Roll Hell. Sam Freeman has worked on Basic Instinct, and the artist on the series is Rodrigo Vasquez, who, as far as I can tell, this is his first major credit. Letterer is Justin Birch. Katie, how'd you feel about Hound?
I wanna start us off by saying I think it is valid for us to have spoilers. Yeah. We don't normally
I don't
in
know. It's
the
a
poll.
poll. I wasn't going to, but you can do that if you want to. It came out this
Well,
week. It feels rough
it did.
to spoil,
Fair enough. Fair
and it's an
enough.
OG. But
Um, I
if you're gonna
liked it.
say, okay,
Here's the thing: we've discussed at frankly ad nauseum on this podcast that the one way to guarantee your book will sell to Katie Markham
is have a
is
dog.
to put a dog in it.
Yes.
And not only is there a dog, there's a dog on the front cover and on the first 2 pages. Like, and it's a good dog too. Like, that's what I'm gonna change the entire podcast to, is just rating dogs in comics. This is a 10 out of 10 dog. Like, the interior
Had a
dog.
dog. Had a dog.
Had a dog, 10 out of 10.
Had something dog-like, like a werewolf or something, and no dog. Those are the 3 options of comic books: dog, kind of dog, no dog.
Exactly. But yeah, I thought it was good. I'm not normally like a huge war story type of person.
It didn't really feel like a war story.
Yeah, but it's very much got that like backdrop of war and that like kind of, war never changes, humanity commentary type vibe to it that I'm not typically a huge fan of. But it was really well done. I think that a lot of the art is, and this is a compliment, is grotesque, like it's clearly supposed to be. I think that they do a good job of kind of leaning into that. Like war changes people, war makes men into monsters, and even though I guess a light non-spoiler is that they aren't werewolves. I fully thought they were gonna be when I picked up the book. I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna turn into wolves. But they do a very good job of still leaning into that kind of monster aesthetic. They're like, these people aren't quite human anymore because of the things that war has done to them. And I think that was super effectively done in the art.
Fully agree. I quite enjoyed this. I like the pacing. Little like fast when you kind of end up with it, and you're kind of like, oh man, I
Very
kind of wish there was a
fast.
little bit more. Um, the art I think is really strong. I think the reveal of like the cult when you get those like tied up bodies, like that page is just, it goes hard.
Mhm.
Like that is a nice page, a nice moment. I get a very, not going to mean anything to Katie, but it'll probably mean something to a bunch of people who listen to this. I get a big Whisperers arc vibe from The Walking Dead. Like that's how this book feels to me overall, which is to say that's a compliment as a huge Walking Dead fan. The thing that I like the least is the ending. Not to spoil it, but I'm not super happy with the way it was resolved. But I think there's good pacing. I think there's great setup, and I think that this is a really unique and interesting concept. So overall, I really did enjoy it quite a bit.
I hear that. What I'll say about the ending is that I wouldn't have disliked the ending if there wasn't a bit of a like false ending of sorts. Like the book is, for the most part, nicely bookended with like present day, flashback, present day. But within the like climax of the book, we get a brief jump to present day again. And I feel like that kind of took me out of it a bit. I think that if we didn't have that additional, or I'm sorry, it wasn't to present day, it was to a flashback from the past. And I think that if we didn't have that and we didn't have context for the like final present day scene, I would have liked the ending a lot better. But as it stands, I didn't have really a problem with the ending. But to the pacing, I thought it was one of those things where, like you said, it's a bit awkward, where I definitely could have used more and I could have used less. Like if they cut a little bit out of the middle, like that scene we mentioned, there are a couple of like lingering scenes that I really liked where like our character is sitting in silence on the page, and I think that's really cool. But I think there were places where you could have pulled a little bit more out to make
Yeah.
it either a fast read or a like regular read, and as it stands, it's just
Yeah.
a little too long for what I think
Um,
it was accomplishing.
I don't think it's I fully disagree with any idea that it's too long for anything. Like I don't think it feels long at all.
No, like I don't think
Um,
it's long, but I think it's too long for a fast read, if
that's
that
fair.
makes
I
sense.
just my overall thing is just if you're paying for an OGN, this just doesn't take up enough
That
of
is
your
fair.
time to really feel like that is justified. That being
Mhm.
said, it is really good content and there's some really great imagery and stuff in it. So it depends on, like, if you're looking at it from a time spent perspective, it's not that good. But I do think from like a content and like
Mhm.
level of quality, it is. So, it's just what you want and what you
For
like.
sure.
Again, I did quite enjoy it. I just would have liked a little bit more. Especially
That is
because for
fair.
me, the ending felt a little bit like a just, well, we got, kind of to the end and we're just going to kind of cut it here,
Mhm.
in my opinion. But overall, again, like, very enjoyable. So
Yeah,
not to let
yeah.
my few concerns, taint my overall
No, no, you're good.
idea of it. I feel bad
Um,
when I'm saying when I'm specifically mentioning the money paid on it. I want to make it
no,
clear
for
that I'm
sure.
not like
Yes.
disparaging the book because it's a very good book.
Uh, what I will say about time spent on the book, a nice thing that I found myself experiencing when I finished the book, like I got through the last pages and I'm like, okay, that is the end of the book. I want to jump back to the front. Like it had that kind of effect where it's like, oh, it's one of those things where you wonder if you've like missed something or if you're like not missed something major, but like it's a book that I think starts with something that you don't have context for, and going back and rereading that section with your context was enriching. So that essentially gave it an extra like 4 pages for me. Because I was like,
That's
oh,
fair.
let me go back to the front.
I,
Um,
I I think that's fair. Like, it does seem like a book that probably has a decent amount of reread value, and it does seem like a book that has a lot of care and intentionality paid to the content being put on the page, which
mhm.
is a huge compliment
Oh
to
yeah,
pay to any comic book. But yeah,
yeah. You ready to hop into ratings?
I am. I gave this my standard. This is a good book rating of 7 out of 10 because that's how I felt about it. I went, this is a
That's
good
fair.
book. It didn't have that ending to make me go, God damn, this book, holy shit. I thought it was very good. I thought it was very well put together. 7 out of 10. Pull list rec. It's a good indie book to check out from me, in my opinion.
That is super fair. I think that my standard for just a good book is that step below yours. I gave it a 6 out of 10. I think if it were like a first issue or something, I would say I would call it a pull list rack. But I think for the like complete story, it's not something that I'd say go into your comic shop and pick up. It's something I'd say if you flip through it and you think that it fits your vibe, then grab it. But I don't know that
Get a
it's
Global
like
Comics membership and you can read it on there. That's only 12
there
bucks.
you
That's
go,
what I did. And for
there
12
you go.
bucks, I feel pretty good about it. I don't know if I'd feel, but
That's fair. For
yeah.
the full 20,
Yeah.
look, I am always happy to spend money at my local comic shop. It is frankly
Which is
a
super fair. My
problem.
local comic shop doesn't really get trades, so I'm buying it at
That's
like a
fair.
Barnes and Noble or something, which is not the same vibe.
No, not at all. But yeah, so I think that it's worth flipping through to make a decision about. I don't feel like I can give it a full like. I liked this so much, you should read it. But it was good. It was good.
That's fair. Yeah, very
But
enjoyable.
speaking of things that I like so much that someone else should read it, are we ready for the back issue review?
Let's jump over to World's Finest.
Batman, Superman, World's Finest, Volume 1, The Devil Nazar. Batman and Superman team up in this book to take on the threat of the Devil Nazar, an ancient evil that had been locked away for time immemorial, only to be released and require the teaming up of these two titans. We see Robin and Supergirl team up in a mission into the past. Batman and Superman take on the rest of the Justice League, and someone make a beautiful sacrifice to lock away this evil for eternity yet again. The creative team here is Mark Waid and Dan Mora, who have been working together so well on this series, Shazam. They Mark Waid obviously has done a ton of work just everywhere over the years. You know, JLA, uh, Archie. He did a really great volume of that. He's been everywhere, frankly. We've talked about him ad nauseum. Dan Mora, Once in Future, Klaus, uh, obviously all of the stuff he's been doing with Dan Mora, as well as like Power Rangers and stuff. Super rad.
Yeah,
Jay, you have not been keeping up with this series.
I've not.
This is your introduction.
Yes.
You don't sound
Um,
thrilled.
I was expecting to like this a lot more than I did, to be
That's
honest.
fair.
I really liked the first issue, and I was
Mhm.
getting real hyped. I thought the first issue was great. I really liked Robin in the first issue.
Right?
I like him kind of taking out Metallo. It was really cool. I really don't like the main villain of this volume. I didn't
Same.
find Neza interesting at all. The entire side quest to the past with Supergirl and Robin were pages that I literally wanted to like fast forward through because I just didn't care. And the main thing that holds back this from me, and actually let me throw out first, is the art is phenomenal, and that is the
Right?
saving grace. Is that the
Oh,
art is gorgeous, maybe the best DC art like you'll ever, at least currently, that you'll be reading. Like it
yeah.
is so ridiculously good that it carries this into being like a book that I enjoy. You know, there's a lot of things from a story standpoint that I don't really like. Um, and the main thing is Batman's characterization. And I think that the contrast and what makes Batman and Superman so interesting together is lost here because Batman is acting so overwhelmingly positive and buddy and fun, and like that can be nice in short spurts and in certain
Mhm.
moments. And there's moments in this where I love it. I'd be like, that'd be an even better moment if he wasn't acting like this constantly
Mhm.
throughout this volume. I do also want to bookend that with I love the first issue, I love the last issue. It's just those three in between that I really just didn't super love outside of the art, which is
Mhm.
phenomenal. I also don't like the way that they
All of
handled
it.
the Green Lantern in this book, which is but I have that a lot in team books, so we'll
Yeah.
throw that to the side. But that was my overwhelming feeling. I enjoyed it, but I was expecting to love this so
Mhm.
much after how much I liked World's Finest Teen Titans, so I was a little bit disappointed.
What's wacky is I have been picking this up since it came out. Uh, I remembered loving it a lot more than I did coming back and rereading it. I still really like the way that Robin is written. For me, throughout the entire thing, I think that his and Kara's trip to the past is actually a highlight for me. I really like the fight that they get into with the Warriors of G. I think that that is super well done and cool. I think that the dynamic between Robin and Supergirl is very funny and very well done. Issue, I think it's 7, is not included in this, but there's, or no, it might be 13. There's an issue where the two of them go on a date and it's
I have
disastrous.
seen panels and stuff of that floating around.
It's so funny. It's so funny. But I definitely am picking up what you're putting down and agreeing with a lot of it, which surprised me. Like, when I think about this book, I don't think about the Devil Neza. Frankly, like I don't really remember a whole lot about
Feels like
him
a
in
worse
general.
Trigon to me. Not gonna
Right?
lie.
Right? And like I like his vibe. Like I like the
Like I
energy
like
of
him in
like,
the
oh, this
finale.
what?
Like like I said, I like the finale, so I like him in the finale. Like
Yes, yes. I
he's a
think you said you
cool
liked his
opposing threat.
personality.
No, I don't like his personality.
Yeah, so
Just like I don't like him.
I definitely get what you're saying with the Batman and Superman relationship. I think that they front loaded a little bit with them having like a buddy buddy dynamic, and then I like more of their dynamic in the middle, and I think that they're kind of ending points and when Superman gets injected with the red K are really good. But like you're saying,
That's
there
your
are a
opinion.
few spots in between where it's like, okay, they don't need to be getting along so well, you know?
Especially like that's why I think the first and last issue works because you're like, it's the beginning, showing them working well is nice, and it's the ending, this nice resolution with them loving. But
Mhm.
like when the entire journey is just these characters getting along so well, it's like,
And
and
working
then like
so perfectly
not to be
together.
nitpicky, but conceptually, I feel really weird about making the decision to make a book set in the past and then
Right?
having the relationship be like perfect. I'm like, this feels like your time to get to play with the relationship when it's still rocky. Because the whole thing is now Batman and Superman are such good friends, but
Mhm.
everybody knows that they have like ideological differences and stuff when they first meet. So it just
Yeah.
seems like a missed opportunity to me. Not to get too nitpicky of like this is how I would have written it because obviously they went a different direction, and Mark Waid's
Yeah.
an exceptionally talented writer. So we're not going to get into that, but that's just my mindset.
Yeah, I don't remember what book we were talking about, but I felt this way about some other book we had where I really like all of the parts individually so much, but then when they come together as just like a kind of read through, I'm a little less jazzed about it. I think that weirdly this
Agreed.
is a series that benefits so much from reading every month, because then I think you get that kind of time apart from it, so a lot of the like interactions don't feel as close. Like this
Yeah.
is, I think, very much written to be an ongoing and to be read in individual chapters,
Yeah.
which is a bit of a bummer because the art is so phenomenal. Like I
The
will
art's
reread it
amazing.
again and
Like
again.
I can't.
Because Dan Mora
Yeah.
works magic. It's insane.
Yeah, we should. Look, I want to hit one thing for like it just makes me interested in being like, I wonder if we read World's Finest Teen Titans like as a volume, how that would feel, because we loved it coming out of issues. So I'm interested in that because you mentioned that like thing. Anyway, but like let's turn up so that we can praise Dan More's art a little bit, because
my God.
Genuinely it is the thing that makes me still really enjoy reading this book. Maybe the best illustrated Metallo I've ever seen in like that first. It's just so ridiculously good. There's so many great Batman shots. Robin looks phenomenal.
To piggyback on you, to touch on both of those characters, and Superman and Supergirl, obviously, and Metallo, the character designs for what?
I don't love this Supergirl design, not gonna lie. Like
that's fair. I like the way she looks. Her costume, I'm a little iffy on.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Like her costume design.
I felt bad leaving her out if I said Batman, Robin, and Superman.
That's fair. That I did it for a reason, not like to be intentional. Like actually, Supergirl is one of my favorite written characters in this, which is funny. Because
God, she's so
Dan Moore's art's the best thing, and I don't really like the writing. But then Supergirl's the reverse, where I'm like, I like the way Supergirl's written a lot, but the design is like. It's still gorgeous Dan Moore artwork, but the design.
Oh yeah, but the character designs are so good. Like we have my favorite vibe of Batman with like the kind of tealish blue, gray, and yellow color scheme going on. Like the only thing that beats that for me is the gray, yellow, and purple of Rebirth, because I simp for that all day long. Superman looks so much like Superman. Like I have thoughts on art of Superman. I think that sometimes he ends up looking like an absolute meathead. I think sometimes he ends up looking like just a thumb. He's so perfect here. Like he is the perfect all-American man. And oh my gosh, their movement, their action, it's all so well done. I could sing Dan Moore's praises all day long, so I will stop doing so. You talk instead.
We can spoil, so I'm gonna jump to the end, because again, I think the ending it makes me wish that I was more invested, because then I think the ending would be like in my mind one of the best comic book conclusions. Because it feels like if the build had built to this right, it's such a amazing climax, and like I can't think if it was just a really large panel on the page now, or if it was a splash page of like Superman diving in through him into the tomb is what it's called. I want to say cave, tomb, into the tomb is just so good.
Yeah, so to catch the listeners up, the devil has escaped. Supergirl has gone to the past. She has importantly lost Robin in the time stream because my boy, oh my god. But she has brought back like the key to sealing away the devil Neza again. But the trick is that somebody has to seal it from the inside to make it like completely impenetrable. They are obviously doing what they do. They knock out Neza, and then they start fighting each other for the privilege of being the one to, lock themselves away for eternity with the devil.
Just to insert there, great Superman and Supergirl interaction and moment. That's really what I'm thinking of when I say I love how Supergirl is written here. Like it is just top tier Supergirl stuff leading into top tier Superman moment. So it's just really, really, really good on that front. Anyway, you can continue the explanation.
Yes, so
I wanted to give that praise
Clark,
to the writer, since there
is able to overcome because these are his friends and he is Superman. And he takes the key, he flies inside after failing to trap him in the Phantom Zone instead. And so there's this thing of like, holy shit, Superman, he locked himself in there. I don't know what the fuck we're supposed to think here. It's literally unsealable. Until fucking Batman is like, oh shit, the Phantom Zone gun is gone, and they're able to use this like extra dimensional energy. Negative Man rips it open. They're able to pull Superman out, saving him while leaving Neza inside. It's so good. It has one of my favorite lines between the two of them.
Explain that a little bit more because I'm not sure if it came across clearly.
Oh, that's right.
Superman put himself in the Phantom Zone so they could then pull him out. That is the really cool dynamic because he knew Batman would figure it out. Exactly. That was a great Batman-Superman moment. That I really
Which leads to my favorite fucking line in the entire series, where Batman's like, that's such a huge risk. What the fuck? And Superman's like, I was counting on Batman to solve a mystery. It wasn't luck or a gamble. It was a plan. And I'm like, oh, best friends. Amazing.
Yeah, such a good moment. Actually, weirdly leads me into one of the criticisms I have, though, which is because like that moment works great in a lot, but it feels like
Yeah.
every interaction is kind of written trying to have those like quotable lines and moments, and I'm like, it makes it so that there's never like kind of like every line of dialogue between them feels like it's like meant to be this like big climactic, and like with dialogue that doesn't really work for me. I'm like, if we
That's
had
fair.
more normal dialogue in between, or like more kind of tension and stuff in between, then these moments would be like extra nice. Also, I don't think many of the jokes landed for me in this book. Like they felt kind of heavy-handed to me. I get that the vibe of this series is meant to be like kind of Silver Agey, Bronze Agey, like that, like kind of, you know, fun. It's set in the past, so we're gonna kind of try and feel like these characters of the past. Worked really well for me in Teen Titans, working a little bit less well for me here. Maybe
What's weird
because
for
of
me
the
is I think it was
characters.
the opposite, where it felt a little weird for me in Teen Titans, and it felt much more solid for me here. I think that there are a few interactions that are a little. When I say that they're funny, I mean like they're funny and not like funny, if that makes sense. Like I'm not really
Gotcha.
laughing. I'm kind of laughing at the fact that it is a joke as opposed to laughing at the joke.
Yeah, you know, I'm
know
not
what I
big
mean.
on like quips and stuff compared to like
That's fair.
funny moments. So for me, not my vibe. I also just found myself, because I read World's Finest Teen Titans first, being like, I like Robin a little bit better
Oh, I
there.
like Robin so much in this series.
I just I liked him in the first issue a lot, and then it felt like he was kind of the delivery mechanism for a lot of these jokes that I
That
wasn't
is fair.
enjoying. And I was like, oh man, dude, I'd like you to do a bit more. Like his interactions with Supergirl were nice at times, but like that was about it for me. I don't love the whole like hero worship angle of Superman, which luckily wasn't done too much
I
with,
was
but it
gonna
was
say I
like
don't think that
a
was
thread
very.
there. It wasn't focused on, but that's just one of the things that I didn't really like of the characterization. But yeah, that's my there's my little like I just it felt very much like these versions of the characters outside of Supergirl and Supergirl and Superman. I really like this version of Batman and Robin wasn't super for me or what I'm looking for.
That's fair. I think that we've kind of had this counterbalance before, where I am much more pro lighter, kind of happier characters and happier characterizations, whereas you are a dark edgy boy. But that's fine.
Listen, there's got to be some conflict. Like, what is Batman and Superman? Butt heads. Like, there's the fun. There's the intrigue.
Yes, I
They can't
agree
both
that their
be
relationship is a little
nice
much,
little
but I
Boy
like it with
Scouts.
Dick.
But the other issue is like with Dick being like that's another similar thing where like then I need Batman to be the dark one so that again we can have that little bit of
fair.
and so I think it really does come down to when Batman's like this, it really hurts the other characters being like this. So yeah,
that's fair. I will cede to you on that. Oh, but I do want to jump
see,
to.
you have to see. Your opinion is fully valid in the characterization thing. I'm just like.
I do agree with you that Batman could have been a couple steps darker and still fit the tone of the book and would have been more effective. Is the longer version of I cede your point.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't even mind if like this is personality. I just like this Batman to like be hiding it a little bit more. Like you guys can't know how happy and excited I am. You know, like that's a fun little Batman angle of him like smiling and then turning and be like, no, you can't, or like, you know, like.
Though I do love, I think that there's a really. I do love when he smiles in Doom Manor and it like scares Rita. Like that's that's funny.
The Doom Patrol was also a weird thing for me here. It feels weird to like have started with the Doom Patrol for one thing, and two, I just didn't really love anything that came out of there. Like they didn't hurt the book, but they just
They also were like doing the background work, and I haven't read the the Unstoppable Doom Patrol. But that was Dawn of DC, so that was well after this, right?
I think so.
Yeah? Maybe?
That sounds right to me.
Maybe. Yeah, they felt like they were kind of cleaning stuff up in the background when it's like, oh, we need to figure out where the cave is. The Doom Patrol will take care of that. And like it never felt like they had any sort of real story going on. I liked when we were at Doom Manor, because they like brought Superman there, because they're like, hey, can you try to do medicine on a Kryptonian? And Calder is understandably someone who would be able to do that, or at least figure it out. Um, so I liked when they were there, because I think the Doom Patrol in other media other than like their own stuff is very effective as like a let's enter their world for a minute rather than have them enter our world.
Yeah.
Um, and I liked this is going to be a good segue into one more thing that I wanted to praise the book for, and
Absolutely.
is very much a strength of Mark Waid and his like deep and passionate knowledge of superheroes and their powers. I feel like he is so aware of and willing to exercise the various like quote unquote kits of his heroes, like Superman using uh his hands are bound so he whistles at like a certain frequency. You see there's a cool Flash one where he's like, oh, Mirror Master, I know how to beat you, I'll just look to see which mirror my symbol is backwards in. uh there was a Batman one too for sure, but I don't remember what it was because Batman, he's less impressive. um but I think that then in the end, one of the ways they're able to kind of stun the devil is with Cliff, with the robot man from Doom Patrol, because that's not a technology that Neza had encountered during his time, and then he was locked away in a tomb, so like he wasn't able to prepare for that. And I thought that was a really cool kind of use of it's. We've said this about Mark Waid before, where he knows how to make everyone feel useful in their own unique way. And I think that that
Yeah,
was very well put
absolutely.
on display in this book. So I liked them coming back in the end in that manner. And I guess that kind of makes sense why they would be kind of woven throughout a bit more. But I could have used less of them than what we got,
Yeah,
for sure.
fully agree. Yeah. I'm gonna just go back to the art because I want to. I don't know. I want to talk about the art. The art was so good. So let's talk about the art. The layouts. Whew, some of the page layouts in this book are just phenomenal, crazy. There's one where like Superman's like punching something, breaking some, so there's like panels that are like kind of like diagonally coming up. God, Dan Mora
Dan
just
Mora, dude.
killing it. Yeah,
And like the
I
thing
loved
is,
him.
it's so nice because literally, if there's a Dan Mora variant for a book I'm picking up, I'm immediately like, yep, that's the cover I'm getting. I think he is just the most talented person, just stylistically. Like, I love his style so much. But then also to see his work on interiors just blow everything out of the park. It's like this.
Absolutely.
What a fucking team, Dan
We're gonna see it
Mora
in the
and
Trinity
Mark
event
Waid.
this
We
summer.
are, we are. And I am
So
excited for it despite the inclusion of Amanda Waller.
me too. Me too. Yeah, I don't know what else. Is there anything else I want to hit on here? I don't know. Is there anything else you want to hit on here?
Um, kind of, and it's a bit of an odd thing to hit on.
Okay.
So this collects like the little preview story from Detective Comics 1050, 1060 or something.
Yeah, but that's
Uh,
just the first couple pages of issue 1, isn't it? Like I realized
maybe?
that when going back into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, because I had lent my hardcover to one of my friends, so I just read the single issues I'd packed up. Um, and then for some reason it doesn't include issue 6, which, not a spoiler, Robin comes back from the past, and like there's a really neat way that Batman finds out how to like find him, and there's some cool stuff that happens with that. And I just don't like, I understand that the devil plotline ends with this, but
Is
I
the next one
don't
not like the
think.
start of the next plot line?
No, the
I haven't
next
read it, so yeah.
issue 6 is a different artist, though I have the Dan Mora variant cover because it's very, very good, with Dick on the front, looking absolutely
Nice.
amazing in a circus.
Nice.
And then it's, trying to find Dick. It's a guest artist, because,
So it's like a
Dan
one-shot
Mora.
type thing?
Exactly, yeah. Which is why I'm like, I don't know why they didn't have that in this volume, because it kind of
Is it
wraps
in the
that
next
up
volume?
as well. I don't know, actually.
I guess the thing is like maybe if the next story arc is like 4 issues after that, it just made more sense to collect it
I
there. But
guess.
I don't know.
And the
I'm
next story arc
like,
is very, like, sidekick focused. So it
Hmm.
kind of makes sense from there to be like, oh, yeah, okay, well, we'll have the you know.
And like I guess the Robin being missing like is a nice cliffhanger for like trades when you're selling trades. So
Fair enough.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
the
no,
next
a very
full
fair
volume
little
is
thing.
number 6 through 10. So it does include it in there. And I guess it makes sense from
Yeah,
a
so if that ends at 10, like yeah, then they wouldn't
yeah,
want to do the like 6 and 4 versus 5 and 5. But
right.
no, I mean that's a fair little concern. But
Yeah, it's just a little
yeah, I don't know.
odd
Do you
thing
want?
for me as a rereader.
Yeah, no, super fair. Do you want to get into all of our like little ratings, top 10 lists and stuff, or do you want
Absolutely,
to
I
hit?
do.
Okay. Um, who's going first?
Um, I can go first.
Okay, great. Because I'm having a crisis of feelings about how much I'm going to let the art carry this book, because this could go so many different spots
There you
depending
go.
on how much I let the art carry it.
I shouldn't have volunteered to go first because I'm
You gotta-
still so. Oh
Well,
god,
well,
you
you gotta
right
start with
after
the rating.
rate it.
We
I
do
hate
ratings and then
rating
we'll go through
things.
top 10s.
Numbers
I know.
are made
Just
up.
rate it. Just rate it.
Ugh.
Everything's made up.
Whatever. I am going to give this a 7.75 out of 10.
Okay.
I will say Dan Moore's art does seduce me. Absolutely.
I am heavily debating. Like that is the top end of the area where I'm looking at because of Dan Moore's art. And then
It's
there's
so
the bottom.
good.
I'm not gonna let the art carry it that
You
high.
should. Look at
Mainly
how
because I'm
handsome
looking
our
at another
boys
book
are.
right now that I let the art carry, and I'm like, I like this less than that, so I'm thinking about things here. I'm gonna give this a 6.5 out of 10. That is where
Oh,
I've
that's
landed.
a heartbreak to me, but that's okay.
7.5 was the top end that I was debating because of just how much I love the art, but I'm gonna land on 6.5 because I feel like that's where I'm at with like I enjoy it, but not
that
up
is
to my
fair.
like to things that you would usually. But I have so many books rated a 7, not up to the books that I've rated a 7.
Yeah, he has all of his ratings written down. I don't bother with that. I will forget and then rank things out
But
of
yeah,
order.
if we want to do top 10 lists, I'm gonna
Yes.
unbury the lead here and say this is not making my top 10 list. Chicken
Wait a minute,
Devil,
that's
which is rated the same, is
I was
holding
gonna
above
say,
it.
look at that! Chicken Devil
Because
not
that
dropping
was
out
actually
of
my
James
big
top
debate
10.
because I was sitting there with Chicken. I'm like, I like the story in Chicken Devil more for sure. I like the art in this more for sure. Overall, I enjoy them fairly similarly. I don't know. Actually, you have a tie on your list. I'll make a tie at 10 so I can have 11 books on my list.
No,
That is how we cheat the
because
system.
I still only have 10 on
Yeah,
my
but that's
list.
because your tie isn't at 10, so you have to push down.
Oh, that's
like my next book would be 12, but the tie at 10
devious.
works.
That's devious.
So we're gonna do this. I mean, as soon as
All
something
right,
moves
all right.
like higher, it's not gonna work anymore, and I'm gonna have to deal with it, and I'll have
That's
2
still
books fall off.
devious, you bastard.
But yeah, right. So and then I'll read out my top 10. Yeah, but yeah, I've decided to do that. That is what my decision has happened. So number 1 is Nocterra Volume 1. Number 2 is Batman and Robin Volume 1. Number 3 is New Teen Titans Volume 1. Number 4 is Above Snakes. Number 5 is Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Number 6 is Radiant Black Volume 1. Number 7 is Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1. Number 8 is Savage Dragon Baptism of Fire. Number 9 is last week's book, Fantastic Four by Wade and Ringo. And then at number 10, we've got a tie between Chicken Devil Volume 1 and World's Finest Volume 1.
This bastard not knocking anything
Hi.
down this week. Well, number 1 for me is Nocterra Volume 1, Full Throttle Dark. Number 2 is the New Teen Titans Volume 1. Number 3, Above Snakes. Number 4, Batman and Robin Volume 1. Number 5, Chicken Devil, Under Pressure. Number 6 is where I'm going to slot World's Finest Batman and Superman. Number 7 is my tie with Radiant Black and Paper Girls. Number 9 is Rain. And number 10 is Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
What?
Sounds
You were giving me a look like I did math wrong.
No, it's because I was thinking about the transition. I'll get into here because I remember that we have a guest joining us for our next segment in the Creator Corner. So I was remembering that we had to plug that.
That's right.
We were going to transition over into the Creator Corner with special guest David Andry.
Let's do it. All right. Hey, gang. Today we are joined by David Andry, the writer of Resonant, Dead Blood, a contributor to the Creepshow anthology, End After End, Morning Star, and coming out soon, a trade of his book Denizen. Thank you so much for coming on, David.
Thanks. It sounds so cool when you say all the things back to back, like it didn't take like 5 years to get all that stuff done. That's really cool.
Honestly,
that's
five
quite
years?
impressive, even for 5 years.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels, when you're in the middle of it, it feels like a slog. It's like a marathon and nothing ever gets done as fast as you want it to. But like, yeah, you just keep your head down and just keep on going, and things just like, you look behind you like, wow, I did all that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, let's look a little bit behind, because the question we always like to start with here is, how did you start making comics? Were you a fan first? How did you make that transition into, writing comic books? How did that come to you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan since the 80s, and when the 90s explosion kind of happened, there were a bunch of like writing contests and stuff like that where like break into comics, and people were actually doing that. Like 16-year-old kids were making comics. So it wasn't like this thing that was so separate. And I tried during that time. I entered a bunch of contests and got a bunch of nice rejection letters because I was like, I don't know, 16, 17, 18 at the time. Probably wasn't very good. I don't know where those scripts are, but if I find them, I'll probably burn them.
No.
Yeah, I remember them. I could probably still write both the scripts because I worked so hard on like two of them that I probably could still pull that out of the databank somewhere. But yeah, and then, college happened. I ran out of money. I stopped collecting comics, and I was out of comics for about 10 years. And I got back into comics when a friend offered a chance to work at San Diego Comic-Con at the Walking Dead booth when Skybound was first established. Cena Grace was Skybound's editor, and he was good friends with my good friend Sean Kirkham, who lives down in L.A., and he's like, we need some people to work the booth. I'm like, cool, I'll work a Comic-Con booth. Even though I was out of comics, I went to college down in San Diego, so I still had gone to Comic-Con, and it wasn't like it is now. And my friend Sean always had free tickets because he was always kind of in an adjacent industry, or like interning at Marvel for a little while. And so before I worked the Walking Dead booth with Walking Dead and Invincible books, I'm like, well, crap, I better know what these are. So I went and bought them all, as many as I could
Good
find.
reintroduction.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to jump back into comics, I mean, why not jump back into comics with two of the best comics, basically ever made? Probably my favorite superhero comic of all time is Invincible, and everybody knows what Walking Dead is.
Yeah.
So that really kind of lit my fire of like collecting again. And then I got to meet like creators, because the Skybound booth was attached to the Image booth, and all these creators are coming and going for signings and hanging out. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And started talking to them, and they're like, yeah, you just make comics if you want to make comics. I'm like, that's all you need to do now? And so just kind of got inspired that way and started started writing. I actually went through a divorce, and that was something I need to emotionally process. And I emotionally processed that by writing my first comic that I self-published. And that I put that out like at local cons with my buddy Christopher Alvarez, who we did Dead Blood, which you guys mentioned. We did Dead Blood together. He's a local creator, and he had been doing comics longer than me, just self-published stuff. And so we started doing local cons together. I put it up on Comixology, which was really cool. And it's kind of sucks that Comixology is like dying away, because that was a really
cannibalized.
Yeah, that was a really awesome platform that indie creators could just submit their books and get them uploaded. And when that happened, I started to get reviews on my comics from people I didn't know. And the funny thing about being a creator, it's not your friends or family that tell you you're good. It's people you'll never meet. And it's like you have to have the validation of strangers before you're like, oh, this is because you never. It's so hard to you think you're doing a good job. You're like, I think this is good. I tried to make it good. All my friends are telling me it's good. And then it's like that person that goes on to American Idol and can't sing. You're like, why did you guys tell me I suck? Like, we're friends. I'm like, okay. So once you get the validation of strangers, that's super addicting. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to keep going and keep making more. And then, you know, with my work at cons through Skybound, I mean, I volunteered with them for almost 10 years. And that just is such a small community that you start to get to know people at other publishers and you start to kind of make connections. And it's like, God, I'd be stupid if I didn't try to exploit some of this, you know? I'm like,
I mean, very fair.
I mean, you're making real connections. It's networking, right? You make real connections, and then you're like, you know, well, maybe this person who is now my friend might want to help me, you know, further my career. And I would do that for someone else that I knew, you know, as much as I could.
Absolutely.
You know, when Natasha Altarisi was doing Heathen before it got picked up by Vault, I took Heathen around at New York Comic Con to Image, to Boom, to like a bunch of different editors that I had come in contact with. And I'm like, you guys got to make this book. You guys got to make this book. And no one wanted to do it until I took it to my now co-writer, Tim Daniel, at Vault. And he saw it and he immediately goes, oh my God, yes, this is an amazing book that like has a voice that's saying something that's not just a cool comic, you know?
Yeah.
And it turned out to be one of their biggest titles ever still, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
So, yeah. So I exploited everybody I knew until I got,
clearly it worked. Because you seem to have put something out in just basically every form at this point. You've done the self-publishing, you've done single issue releases, anthologies. Have you noticed any like perks or drawbacks to those specific avenues?
Well, like doing like the single issue like Creepshow is way easier than doing like a 5 or 10 issue series. I mean, not just the length of writing, but like the length of time you're thinking about it. You know, it's like you go from pitch to writing to being done within a couple of weeks. I'm like, wow, that was really cool. Instead of like, 6 months and you're just starting to see like the art come in for your book, and it's, you know, it's more of a slog. You know, I don't think I don't have that ownership that I have of my creator owned stuff. You know, I love the fact that I have that as a credit and that I've been published by Skybound. It's like come full circle around. And it's like, that's really awesome that 10 years of volunteering, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 times a year for Skybound got me 10 pages of Creepshow. I'm like, whatever, it was worth it, you know?
Oh yeah.
And, but yeah, definitely not the stress and the ownership. So you don't get like the good and bad stress. And like the excitement of like that coming out and then it kind of hopefully living for a long time and picking up new readers.
Yeah. So you also have a new book coming out, Morning Star, that's coming out next month, I believe. And that is being published by Mad Cave. When you were pitching to them, was it like a cold pitch? How did you end up with moving away from Vault to Mad Cave?
Yeah, so I mean, my co-writer Tim Daniel on Morningstar and End After End, and End After End, and Denizen, and basically on everything else probably going forward. Tim, in addition to working at Vault, being one of like the founding partners, he does logo, book design, all kind of graphic design stuff for everybody. And he's done that for years. And that was, how I met him is he did that for Skybound. And so he was helping out at the booth because he was a Skybound, not an employee, but tangentially kind of attached to Skybound. And so we've been friends for 10 plus years and, co-writers for, 3 or 4 years now. And he just knows everybody. And so he started doing this thing where when he would do a logo for a company, say a company like Mad Cave, he's like, oh, they're like, okay, you can turn in your invoice. He's like, I'd love to turn my invoice, but can I also put these pitches in with my invoice? And it's just like the smoothest thing ever.
Fantastic.
Yes. And so we have come up with kind of a pitching process where we do a single image, because Tim is very, very visual and he has to like come up with the image first. So a single kind of representative image of
I
what that
want you
series
to
is.
respond to
I've
me as
posted
soon
like
as you
stuff from
hear
like
the
the
next word
old
that I'm going to
Denizen
say.
before,
Now.
where it's like a
The
Joshua
word was
tree
now?
and like a creature
Yeah.
peeking out
Okay,
from
we'll go
behind
again.
it.
We'll go again.
And it's
You
something that
understand
just
my
it
confusion.
emotes the entire kind of tone of the series and the feeling of the series. And so he'll come up with a singular image like that with a logo, and then we'll do like a 2 sentence, 10-second pitch, and and attach that to the image, and that will be like our elevator pitch,
Right.
or our
Yeah.
walking down the hallway or standing in a urinal pitch, where it's like, hey, I got this idea.
Yeah.
And if the editor or whoever we're pitching to responds to that, then we'll throw them a longer, well, like basically like a 1 page, which is what most
Right.
people pitch out immediately, where
Yeah.
it has more of a breakdown. And then if they like that, then a full series outline. So it's kind of like like a we tease you in and then get you with the bigger one, and then hopefully grab you with the bigger one. And so Tim uh, pitched them some stories, and they said yes. And it was really ridiculously easy. And Mad Cave just they're making a big push into creator owned, and I think they just saw the value of what Tim and I had done separately and together in the past, and they're like, yeah, we'll take a chance on you guys. And
That
so it's been like really amazing working with them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've been talking about how you've been co-writing a lot now with Tim Daniel. Can you tell us a little bit about how the writing process changes when you're co-writing something versus, just writing yourself?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's super easy, and it's been very, very seamless. And it's kind of like, if you're riffing with a friend, about like, oh, wouldn't this be cool if this happened, if this happened, if this happened, and we just kind of take that and turn that into like the basis of our stories. And so, one of us will have an idea, and we'll start to just flesh it out together, or I'll have an old pitch that I did separately, or he'll have an old pitch that he did separately, and we'll kind of rework it together and find a middle ground where we both can, get our emotional hooks into the story. We don't tell just stuff that happens. We kind of have to have an emotional connection to the story for us really to want to work on it. So, once we get that and talk it through, then basically I do the parts I like, and he does the parts that he's really good at. So it's kind of like cheating. It's like, if you had a friend writing a term paper with you, and you're like, oh, I hate doing the outline. They go, ooh, I love outlines. I'm like, okay, cool, you do the outline. And then
Right.
and then so basically he'll do outlines of whatever, like, um, density and length, and then I'll go through and just start writing, and I'll just write what we call a vomit draft, and that's just getting everything out, plus dialogue, because I like to get into the dialogue. That's how I attach to characters. That's how I know how the character's going to act, what their attitude is towards people. Just really, I don't understand the character until I can get into their head enough to write how they speak. Um, so I'll go through and do a full pass on an issue, 2 issues, 5 issues, whatever I have time for, and whatever I feel like the momentum. If I'm not getting stuck and need help, I just keep on going, and then I hand that to him, and he looks through the whole thing, sees where there needs to be changes, where opportunities for like cooler story moments or cooler character moments can happen, and he'll do a pass and then send it back to me, and then I'll script, page and panel, full script, send it back to him, and then he'll do like usually a final pass on it. And it's really easy. It's like cheating.
What a
Um,
great way to look at it as like
yeah,
cheating.
I mean, and I think Tim especially is really good at not having an ego on this stuff, and he can let ideas go like crazy. He's like, okay, that didn't work. Let's go this way. and he always has 10 more ideas. I can be a little bit more harder to move and steer, because I just don't come up with as many things as he does, and so usually by the time I come up with an idea, I really like it. But we both have fairly low egos on this stuff, and if he has a better idea, I'm gonna get credit for it, so I'll take it. And if I have a better idea, he's gonna take it because he's also gonna get credit for it. So it's been, I was really kind of nervous. I'm like, shit, I don't know if I can do co-writing. I don't like to be edited. I'm like, get
Yeah.
out of here. I correct my grammar and stuff. That's fine. But I don't like a big heavy handed edit. Um, but Tim's just so excited about the comic book process that his like excitement is infectious. So he'll get so pumped up on my idea that I'm like, yeah, I'm pumped up on my idea too. Let's go. And it just
That's awesome.
and yeah, and him being so open makes me more open. And it's just like it's just like a relationship. You got to have good communication, and you got to be willing to compromise and see where the other person maybe have a better idea than you. And if you go in with that, man, it's fun. It's been, like I said, it's way easier than writing by yourself. Writing is a very lonely experience. I can listen to music. I know some people who write who can't even listen to music. I'm like, that sounds like torture. That's what makes people. Johnny has all fun and no games or whatever. It's not. It's not the like profession for a sane person to sit
Right.
there and write in silence all day long. Yeah, that's cuckoo bananas.
So true.
Yeah, when you were working on Denizen, it was published alongside another book, The Cemeterians, in these double-sized issues, which is kind of an unusual setup. It's not something that at least I've seen that often. Were you in communication with Krause and the rest of their team when you were figuring out like what you were going to actually put in each single issue of
Nightfall, double feature.
Nightfall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think comic customers knew what to do with it too. Because really, honestly, it was. I mean, people should have snatched that. That was a really good value because each story was 30 pages, so it was a comic and a half. So it was basically 3 comics for $7 or $8 or whatever it was. So it was a super good deal. But whatever.
Yeah.
We tried it. We tried it. We really wanted to have it work. We thought it was a really cool idea. But what we did beforehand, we didn't want them to connect truly, or to depend on each other, because we knew at the end we were going to do 2 separate trades. That was
Right.
always kind of the plan. But I gave Daniel our entire script, and he gave me his entire script. And what I did is tried to go in a couple of places and put it in little Easter eggs.
Cute.
So there may be little Easter eggs that slightly cross over. I don't know if they got in the script, but I had to kind of look through again and see. But we were totally aware of what their book was and totally aware of what our book was. And it wasn't about making them like connect or anything, because we really truly
Right.
wanted to be like you go to a drive-in and see a double feature, and it's just horror night at the drive-in. And so you're going to get 2 horror stories that are just, nothing to do with each other, just happen to play back to back. And I think both books are really gorgeous and really cool. And I'm really proud of Denizen. Denizen is, an emotional journey definitely for Tim. He's talked about it in other interviews, so I'm not like pulling the curtain back too much, but it definitely had some stuff to do with what his family was going through at the moment we were writing this. And so it was cathartic and also, tough for him to write. And we really delved deep into some, emotional brambles to like pull that story out. So I'm really proud of that story. I hope people find it in trade form, or go back and find the singles, because I think it was a really we made a lot of choices with that single issue. We put it on newsprint to make it feel a little pulpy and older. Tim put the little intermission, thing between the 2 stories, which looks really cool. And I just think it was a really fun idea.
It's
I
always
think
nice
so
to
too.
see, I think, indie creators experimenting with new things, because it's good to have different media or different approaches to storytelling. So like you said, like do something like a double feature is a cool way to try to maybe bring readers across the bridge between the two issues. Was that a thought process that you would be kind of bridging two audiences together?
Absolutely. I mean, Daniel Kraus, is Daniel Kraus. So, he's got, definitely like, readers that are loyal to him. And, he did Whale Fall and Autumnal and like just has been, always everything he's done, Shape of Water just hits. And then, Tim has people that love his stories from like The Plot and Curse and the stuff that he's done before. And then I got my little resonant folks. So the idea kind of was like, hey, if we can get people that like, if I get a Daniel Kraus reader to become a Tim Daniel and DB Andry reader, I mean, that's awesome. And vice versa. So yeah, there was a little bit of that thought process of like, hey, let's take the team from Resonant and the team from Autumnal and do a little switch. And we tried to get Skylar Patridge on Daniel's story, but didn't work out with her schedule because she's super popular now. And but Mount House did an awesome job, and so I think everything worked out. The product is exactly what I wanted and I think what the team wanted the product to be. So I just hope people like it, find it, and love it.
Yeah, and that trade paper, it is coming, I think, in June of this year. It's supposed to be coming out.
It's coming.
Something like
yeah. It's so weird with like paper shortages and stuff now.
Right.
That
Yeah.
I've had 7 different dates for things. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to come out when it comes out. I think you can pre-order it now. So go to your local comic shop and pre-order it. Or if you use bookstore.org or one of the online retailers, you can probably pre-order it there. So yeah, I hope people check it out and enjoy it because it's got some, beautiful Chris Sheehan art, some of, I think, his best work. And of course, I dragged Jason Wordy from Resonant onto it because I will try to drag him everywhere I can. Jason Wordy is a genius. I have to say it on every podcast. I'm not contractually obligated, but I feel it compelled to let everybody know what a genius Jason Wordy is. And I wish people could have seen the Resonant pages pre and post color. I mean, the things that he did was crazy. The things that he did in Denizen were gorgeous. The things that he's doing in Morningstar are absolutely like groundbreaking. Like no one's done this before. The techniques and stuff he's doing, he just basically invented this whole new thing for Morningstar, and to make it look like the printing took place the same time as the story in like the 1950s, 1956.
I was going to say, it looks very retro from the previews I've seen.
Yeah. He's purposely missing some of the lines, like the press is offset slightly when the colors get laid down. And
That's such a cool idea.
it's just, I mean, come on. This dude is like, you could just color the book or you could try to add to the story, and he's completely adding to the story. He's putting in the soundtrack, he's putting in like just the whole mood and feel of the book is so special once he gets done with it. And I think for every book Jason does, you can just kind of buy it for the colors. Don't even read the story. It's like, oh, these colors are beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, that's Morningstar coming out on March 27th. I think we're looking at.
FOC is, probably going to be, I don't know when this comes out.
I think this will end up coming out a little bit after. A week and a half is when this will come out. From
so still contact your local comic shop and make sure you reserve a copy, and let's get a sellout and get a second printing and have everybody in the universe buy it.
You can still add it to your poll list even if you didn't pre-order it. So
it's so important especially for indie books. You're voting with your dollars on what you want to see more of. And that's what I like to think of. Even if like I don't completely connect to the story, I'll buy indie books. I'll buy 10 indie books to every like Marvel or DC book because they're fine. They can take 1/100th of the money they made in one of their movies and fund their comics for the next 20 years if they want to. every indie sale makes a huge difference to companies that's just what they're doing. So
Absolutely.
buy indie books.
It's funny. Me and Katie were just talking about it. I literally told the guy who runs my store, Jeremy. He literally found an indie book somewhere that he had forgotten to give to me, and he was like, "This is yours, isn't it?" And I was like, "How did you realize that?" And he's like, "Oh, you're the only one who buys weird indie books here." I was like, "That is somehow so funny and so depressing because more people."
Yeah.
And it was invasive. It's not that weird. It's a Cullen Bunn book. People should be reading that.
It's not super bizarre. It's not off the beaten track. Yeah. It's I think unfortunately indie books are it depends on the store owner and what the store owner and the store employees read.
Mm-hmm.
At my local comic shop, indie books outsell Marvel and DC.
That's awesome.
Because
That's so rad.
the store owner loves indie books and he pushes them and he lets people know what they're going to like, and that's kind of the lifeblood of indie books is really word of mouth and people who read them and force their friends to read them. Aggressively read this.
Yes. But yeah, so coming out soon for you, Denizen trade paper. We've got Morningstar #1. End After End issue 9 should also be coming out in March. Is there anything else you'd like to plug for the listeners at home?
And then End After End, the second trade will come out, and again, that was that book had a little bit of struggle coming out too during the pandemic and blah blah blah. Everybody had issues, but try to find it in trade or single issues. That was the first thing me and Tim wrote together, and we again put a lot of heart into that one. The Resonant Complete edition is coming out, and so that I think is on April 4th. So you can get it again in any comic shops, online book retailers. They, I believe, have stopped selling or stopped printing the trades. So there's not going to be 2 trades of Resonant anymore. It'll just be the one complete story. And it's only $25, so it's cheaper than the 2 trades separate.
Awesome.
So buy Resonant.
Good value.
Yeah, you'll be ready for the TV show when the TV show comes out, whenever that is.
Awesome.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you so much again for joining us. It was great to have you, and I think you gave a lot of awesome insights. So thank you so much.
Yeah, exploit your friends.
Yes.
The moral of the story today.
Moral of the story.
If there's one thing you take out of this interview,
one thing from
exploit people.
Exploit your friends. And you know what? If they're your friends, they'll love to be exploited.
And they'll exploit you right back.
And exploit you back. And that's how it works. That's what we call networking. You help them, they help you.
Absolutely.
The rising tide lifts all boats, and we all try to. The indie world is tough. We all try to help each other. I don't think there's a lot of pushing someone else down to try to get yourself up higher. That doesn't really
Hopefully
work.
Not.
Yeah,
that's right. The real moral of today is buy indie.
Buy indie books.
Absolutely. But I think that's going to bring us to a close on the interview. So that's going to take us to the end of this week's episode. Thank you again to David Andry for that awesome interview. We have so much coming up for all of you guys over the next couple of weeks, including this Saturday, the Strange Saturday Super Show returns, and we're joined by John Layman this time to talk about In Hell We Fight, which is one of our favorite indie series.
That is right. We love In Hell We Fight so much, and we got to ask wonderful questions about it and about all of the different places he's worked in the industry. Really cool guy.
Seriously,
really fun interview. Really cute cat.
Very true. And I would really check out that interview, completely unbiasedly. But our regularly scheduled programming will return next Wednesday with the next full episode of the Script Heroes podcast. Katie, what are we pulling next week?
Majority Marvel books. I'm over it. Whatever. She said not over it. Just kidding. Marvel's fine. Weapon X-Men #1. Daredevil Gang War #4. For the first time, I'm reading as it comes out, Void Rivals #7 and Batman First Night #1. But we'll also have a back issue review.
The back issue review this week is going to be King Spawn Volume 1. We're finally going to get into some Spawn on this podcast. And the creators of that book are writer Sean Lewis, who is joining us for an interview next week. The artist is Javier Fernandez, and of course, Spawn is created by Todd McFarlane. But why don't you tell us a little bit, Katie, about why Sean Lewis is joining us next week and
Yeah,
who will
Sean
be with him?
Lewis. Yeah, and his artist, Jonathan Baravecci, are joining us to talk about Bear Pirate Viking Queen, a new #1 that's going to be coming out from Image. Coming up, I think, next month now. Maybe late March, early April.
Yeah, that I believe that is the timeline. We'll have more specific details for you
Yes.
guys next week. We have gotten a very awesome opportunity to read this book.
Yes.
So yeah, we will talk about it next week. I am not going to spoil things, but
Agreed.
we won't spoil things then either. But we'll spoil our feelings next week,
Yes.
not the book. But yeah, that's everything coming up. Beyond that, as always, we will see you next week, Comic Geeks.
Donald fucking Duck.
Everybody likes Donald Duck.
I don't think that's true.
I don't care to do any research.